Hi, this is Bo Astrup. I want to introduce you to ORB Composer. ORB Composer is a music composition software which uses artificial intelligence to compose music based on your input. It's the first real software for composers, musicians, and songwriters based on artificial intelligence. Today, September 28, 2018, we had the closing day of the Production Music Conference in Los Angeles. And I believe this is the first time we had a panel on AI-generated music. The title was, How Will This Impact the Future of Production Music? So basically, this confirms AI is a thing in music. It was a great panel and very interesting to listen to. But I think ORB Composer is not really on the radar of anybody yet. I think it should be. It's one of the most exciting pieces of software that has come out in 2018. So let me show it to you. I'll focus on working with ORB Composer in conjunction with MOTU's Digital Performer, as when you download the demo from orb-composer.com, ORB Composer comes with templates for various DAWs, but there's no template for Digital Performer, and very little information on how it does work with Digital Performer is provided, but that might change, of course. So let's dive into it. When you download the demo and open the folder, you will find two DMGs. One is called ORB Composer MIDI and the other called ORB Composer. ORB Composer MIDI is the first thing you should install. You simply install it by dragging it into the Applications folder. Once it's in there, you can go ahead in the Applications folder and launch it. Then you'll see this icon show in your menu bar. Basically, this is a little middleware that will handle all MIDI communication between ORB Composer and Digital Performer or any other DAW. As you can see here, the only thing you can do with it is you can set it to auto start, yes or no, or you can exit it. If you don't set it to auto start, you will have to go to the Applications folder and launch it yourself before launching ORB Composer itself. The other part of the installation will be ORB Composer itself. Same thing, drag it into your Applications folder and you're done. Can't be much easier than that, huh? Okay. So let's go ahead and launch ORB Composer. In ORB Composer Demo, well, let's just talk about this right now. In ORB Composer Demo, there are three limitations. One is it will only run for an hour. You can only work with 2 blocks of music, and we'll get into that. And you cannot save what ORB has created. But it gives you really good information about how it works and will provide you plenty of opportunity to explore it. The first thing you will do is choose one of these 6 templates. And for this demo, I'll just make a simple string composition. So I choose strings and click apply. ORB Composer now show it'll be using violin 1, violin 2, violas, cello, and double bass. Those are the instrument tracks that has been created so far. Next thing you will do is set the tempo here. You can set the scale here and see you can change the key, and then we have different scales here. Knowing music is definitely a great help here, or it's a great opportunity to learn. So you have these different scales, and the last thing you can change is the meter. I will just leave it as C major in 4/4. Then the next thing you do is you start here selecting between various blocks. So you can choose a theme intro. I'll just drag it into here. Then I choose the theme. So this is one of the limitations in ORB Composer Demo. I can only work with 2 of these blocks. If I had the full version, I can add more blocks, so I can do way more variations. Here you can see it will change the melody. It can do more intense, less intense, even more intense, even less intense, transitions, and then you can go into an end of the composition. Next thing I will do here, I will go to the bar items. First of all, ORB Composer defaults to 8 bars, but you can type in any number. You could do a 16 bar, but let's do an 8 bar intro. And for the intro here, we can choose between different structures for the intro. Let's choose this one with QA and QA. So you just drag it over here, and ORB Composer has now set up these chords for the individual bars. If you want to change them, you can double click on them and change them to whatever chord and whatever chord variation you want. So right now, these are the variations for the G chord. And as you can see, you have a lot of variations to choose from. So again, good to know your music theory. Once this is done, then you could shift to like a 16 and do a 16 bar for the theme. And also note the scale. You can change that just for your theme block to a different scale than your intro. Also, your time signature can be different for each block. Now everything here is 7/8. I'll go back to 4/4. Next thing you can do here is select the mood for your piece. So let's say this should be some kind of cinematic score. Here are changes for different structures. I can drag this structure and drop it on top of the chords here, and you will see the chords will change accordingly. You provide a lot of information to compose from. I will leave the chords here for now. So now you see these vertical bars. They're called curves. What you see here is intensity. You can switch to momentum. And then you can change the intensity and/or momentum for this particular bar. And as soon as you do that, ORB Composer will compose a piece of music using these instruments. If I hold down the Control key on my Macintosh keyboard, my cursor becomes a pencil tool, and I can basically just chart out how I want this to be. Now let's look at the assigned instrument. You can see here for the violin, it tells you the name of the instrument. It's a legato piece. It shows you MIDI information here that I'll get back to. And it'll tell you the roll is melody, and it'll talk about the intensity. We can see here the intro will be using these variations of the instrument, and there's a change over here. When I go into the theme, the cello will be changing from playing long notes to playing legato. And note that the sound quality of the instrument is solely depending on your sample libraries. So the sounds of ORB Composer is as good as your sample library get. However, you do have a tremendous amount of control here in ORB Composer over the individual instruments, how they interact with your sample libraries in terms of, well, let's go have a look at the instrument preferences here. Let's look at the piano. First of all, these are the potential instruments that ORB Composer can choose from when composing a piece of music. And you'll see here, it even has integration with hardware like Arturia Mini Brute and sequential circuit synths. Integration with drum machines, percussion, effects, voices, choirs, woodwinds, brass, and here comes the string section, orchestral solos, and orchestral percussion. So a lot of instruments. Now, if you look into the violin one and you click on this, this opens up and you see there are different variations of the violin that ORB Composer could potentially choose to use as part of the composition. Starting with legato, longs, spiccato, tenuto, marcato, pizzicato, tremolo, long harmonics, and so on. You see this is cut off, so you can actually move up here and make that a little wider so you can see everything. Then you have the information of which ORB port the MIDI is going to be sent to Digital Performer to port 13, channel 1. Velocity is not being sent, but mod wheel information is. And then we have the MIDI range. This is the pitch range that ORB Composer will be using or can use. So you will see this legato violin will not play a really low note because that would not make sense, as the real instrument cannot play low notes. So basically, you can set a MIDI range if you have a specific library for a legato first seat violin that you want to use, but it has to be a specific MIDI range in Native Instrument Contact, UVI Falcon, Vienna, or whichever virtual instrumental library you own. You set the MIDI range here. And then you can set the variations of the intensity. As you can see here, it's using everything from 0 to 127. Now, all sample libraries are not created in a way where everything that goes up to 127 sounds good. You might want to cap it at like a 100. Maybe your forte is not as maximum as is shown here, so you change that information. Another thing, while we're here at the MIDI range, that is important or can be important is if we go back to the drums. And look here at the drums, you will see the MIDI range for the acoustic bass drums is 35. So MIDI note 35 will be triggering this acoustic bass drum. And MIDI note 36 will be triggering the ordinary MIDI kick. However, but when we go into something like the pedal hi-hat, if you have a virtual instrument like Superior Drummer, Easy Drummer, or any other drummer, that particular MIDI note here is 44. Might not be triggering what you're using in your drum machine. If you have a virtual instrument like Superior Drummer or Easy Drummer, that particular MIDI note 44 might not be triggering the right sound of your library. So it's important for you to be able to go in here and change it to what works for you. Now I made a PDF. You can find a link to it in the comments below, where I put all this information into a spreadsheet where you first have the group, you have the instruments, if there's different types of performances like we have with all the strings and so on, they're here. Then you have the ORB Composer port and the MIDI channel. And last you have the pitch range for each of these individual potential instruments. So this is just to help you get started, and if you need to double check something, you can download this so you don't have to go into ORB Composer to get this information. But if you need to change anything, you go into ORB Composer, go to the edit menu and go down to instrument preferences. Let's open Digital Performer. So all the instruments you saw here in ORB Composer will need to have a corresponding MIDI track in Digital Performer. So I actually made a template for Digital Performer for you. There's a download link in the description below so you can use this as a starting point. Modify and save it as all the different versions that you want. I've set it up using group folders. As you remember, the first thing in ORB Composer was the piano. So I called the folder piano and added the ORB port 1 and channel 1 through 8. If you open up the folder, you have piano 1, 2, and 3, and so on. I buzzed everything as it should be, because this is how ORB Composer will show you its routing, which is why it's important to know which ORB port and channel the individual instruments are transmitted on. So if we go back to ORB Composer, you will see the violin legato is sending on port 13, channel 1. And let's go back and look. I'll just hide all other tracks than those I'll be working with. So the violin. And the first track here we're looking at is the violin 1 legato, and the one you'll be looking for here is the ORB channel 1. So you need to record enable the track. You can see I used it before, so it actually remembers that I used UVI Falcon to test this out. So let's add UVI Falcon to this. And here comes Falcon. Okay, so I need to set up UVI Falcon. Let's just go back to ORB Composer. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually need 6, because you see here the celli are changing from the intro into the theme from ORB port 15 channel 10 to port 15 channel 9. So let's go. Everything else is the same. Yeah, just double checking. So you need 1 violin. Now again, the thing is that ORB Composer doesn't sound better than any of your sample libraries. So if we go for violin, let's choose the solo violin sustained forte, and that's how it sounds. Now then you need to set the output to the correct instrument. Okay. Now let's move down to the other violin. This time I will choose a section, and let's see which violin it is. I need a legato on channel 15, which is the first one. It's called legato, so that's fantastic. Let's record enable that track. I need to go to Falcon and set up an instrument for it. Let's do a section that's channel 2, so I'm going here, Falcon. So I'm going here, Falcon 1, channel 2. Then we have violas, and that is ORB port 14, channel 12. So you just scroll further down. I'll just close this. I don't need to see it, so let's go to the violas here. That's legato, so we will record enable that, and that will be UVI Falcon number 3. So let's set up the violas. And let's choose a group of violas here. There we go. So close that out. And then we go on to the cello. And that's where you need 2 tracks. We need 1 track each for long and legato. There is a difference to the sound, so it's channel 10 and 9. Let's go to DP. The first ones here are channel 9 and 10. So the thing here is when we go to Falcon and add cello, I don't have long and legato versions. So I'll just choose a group of cello sustained, and that's it for that one. I will record enable these 2 because ORB will be sending MIDI out on different channels as it says. So this one will go to UVI Falcon, and that will be number 4. Let's just double check that it's routed for Falcon number 4. And the last one will be the bass. Let's just do, I think it's sustained. Let's close this. Go to the bass, and let's go over to ORB and check its port 16. Is long notes, port 16, channel 8. Let's go back here, port 16, channel 8, long notes. This is a track you can see it's already been used. I'll be using Falcon channel 5, so now I got everything set up here. Now one thing I want to make sure of in DP is, let me see how event chasing is set up. I have taken volume off, so when I start playing, volume will not just jump up to maximum and distort in the virtual instrument. This is okay, and I set Digital Performer to wait for a MIDI note before it starts playing or record. I have set Digital Performer to 60 BPM, matching what ORB Composer is set to, and I can now set Digital Performer to record. Before I start recording, let's just try it out. Let's go to ORB Composer and listen to what it has come up with. So I'll just click play. The balance is not right, but that's a mixing issue that I can deal with later in DP, of course. And say it's okay, but what ORB Composer is good as, you can change this composition you just heard. You have these buttons up here which will create chords for the block. This will create the notes for the block. This one will create both instrument notes and chords, but let's change just the chord. Now you see changing the chord structure. So you can go back and listen to how this changed the composition. Now there might not be much melody to change in here, but let's listen to the theme part. Let's go back and change the melody here. One thing we didn't talk about here is if I click on this, you can see you can actually change which articulation you want, but more important, I can say maybe this is too high. Do it lower. Okay. So let's try taking it down even very low and listen to how that sounds. Let's try to bring it down into the low register here, create new notes based on it. Let's pick it up here so we hear all the MIDI. As you remember, I said you can change the meter, so let's try do something really odd. Choose 7/8 here for the theme. Let's listen. You can totally change the composition. Let's try waltz. As you can see, you can totally manipulate the composition. So let's go back to 4/4 and say this is cool, we're good to go. Let's go back to DP, start DP at the first incoming MIDI note. We armed the tracks that we needed. So we'll go back over to ORB Composer. Turn off looping in ORB Composer, otherwise it would just be circling. Awesome, so now we can go back to Digital Performer and play back the composition. To see the MIDI information. Note, by the way, that one of the really cool features in the track selector is DP actually shows you in bold. Well, it can be a little hard to see, but it actually bolded the name of the MIDI tracks, which contains MIDI information. Very, very cool. So these are the basics. So go to orb-composer.com and download the demo and try it out, because it's actually quite fun and inspiring to work with. I didn't go into a lot of details here, like there are a lot of videos out there, like I could start changing the momentum and pick up the momentum like here at the second part of this theme and so on and so forth. I just wanted to show you the actual workings of ORB Composer together with Digital Performer. I have the MIDI implementation spreadsheet and the DP template for you. You can download it. You'll find the link in the description below. I highly encourage you to do this and have some fun with ORB Composer. It's actually quite cool because now I have the composition in DP, and of course now I can start adding more instruments, whatever I want. I could play my own instruments on top of it, of course whatever you want to do, or even make more changes back in ORB Composer. Okay, take care and have fun. Oh, wait a second. One cool thing I forgot to tell you about is setting up your instruments. So now it plays through Falcon, right? When I'm in ORB Composer, and this is the violin 1 legato, let's go to ORB Composer and go to the instrument preferences. Let's find the viola 1 here. This is legato, right? Once I have set up the routing to the virtual instrument, I have sound. Clicking that play button, I can hear how my sample library sound, how it sounds a little too harsh when it gets up there in the 120 plus range. So again, you can adjust these so they fit the sound of your exact sample library. Very cool, very great implementation. This is Bo Astrup. You know what to do.